Welcome back to another Plasticon review! Woohoo!
Now you can fight mighty battles of Triax and the Virox armies! Recently, the minor battle skirmishes between these two countries erupted in full-scale war. Hundreds of land and air combat vehicles battled across the land. With their huge fighting machines, they staged most massive battles ever. The largest armies in the world are in your hand. Take command! Megaforce, brought to you by Gamer. Subassembly required. Vehicles sold separately.
Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover something completely different because it's not really Transformers, but it kind of transforms. I'm talking about Kenner Megaforce. You know, the Triax guys. Yeah, those guys. Well, here's Backlash. Their gigantic plane of awesome payloadness. This thing carries a large payload. This thing is literally a awesome bomber. The design of this thing really reminds me of the old F-111 Aardvark, which a lot of people from the that research planes from like Korean and the Vietnam age. This plane really looks similar to that thing, except for this scale is just completely off because this thing is supposed to be enormous. I mean, so large that it actually has a smaller gunship canopy here at the very beginning. And this right here would be your main cockpit area here on the front. The green on this thing is really, really crazy. It is not really a neon green, but more of an, I would say, teal. It's got a real odd color to it. It's got this awesome little cannon here on top, as well here on the very bottom. Now this thing does kind of rotate a little bit. And anybody out there knows anything about this thing, these are very, very difficult to come by. These little teeny tiny cannons that are actually on this guy. He's supposed to actually have two little guns that come off here and here, which I unfortunately do not have, along with a couple other turrets that would be here and here. The reason I know all this is because I actually had one of these when I was a kid and I absolutely loved this toy. Unfortunately, this is not my original one, but these guys are hard enough to come by, let alone trying to find one complete. They normally would come with 4 missiles. I only have 2. And they would plug in under here just like a G.I. Joe vehicle. G.I. Joe vehicles tend to have this dog bone shape here. It allows the missiles to actually plug in. Now it's got storage on the underside of both wings and also storage here on the very back. Why? Because this thing here can fire missiles as well. And very successfully does it fire missiles. I'm going to plug this in for later use and pull the on here off just to show you guys a bit of a gimmick. Now with Megaforce, a lot of people out there knows that these things are filled with gimmicks. Every one of these vehicles were. He also happens to have a triple barrel cannon here. Now what's crazy is you got this little port here on top. Well, this port here would probably be more than likely for a helicopter, or you can just take one of the little Megaforce vehicles that's got this big gigantic square here on the bottom and then successfully plug it in. And some of these throughout the years have got to the point that they really don't like to plug in very well because the plastic's kind of stiff. But if you do find these guys, these right here tend to get broke off very, very easily, so you got to be really careful on that. It's got a lot of thrusters on the back of this thing. And this just shows you how big this vehicle would have been because they just filled this thing with all that. On the underside, it's got a lot of molded detail, along with molded in wheels. Unfortunately, they do not roll. but you can tell by just the scale of the landing gear, this thing would have been massive. Doesn't really have like a bomb bay or anything, but this thing always reminded me of a large super bomber or something. This thing is just completely awesome. Now let's get into the gimmick. The gimmick on this guy is you lift up the entire tail portion of this jet. And when you do that, it reveals a lot going on back here. You have place here in order to actually place one of your little triax vehicles can actually sit there successfully and actually be stored here. It did not come with these guys though. When you do try to find one of these guys complete, he does come with a different little vehicle that I'll reveal later. But this whole thing here comes out. And this whole assembly sometimes lets it get caught because it's got this large barrel, but it turns into another tank. I'll get into that here in a couple minutes. They did not skim out on detail. That's one thing that Kenner did very, very well. They even put like a diamond plated flooring here, and this does ramp down, so if you really wanted to place like a small ramp here, it would actually ramp all the way up. You can see there's quite a bit of cargo load in here. You have room here to place 3 vehicles successfully, whether it's a helicopter, a jet, or a tank. And it also has ability, even when it's in this mode, pulling this little trap door here back, and then you are able to use the jet without the large cannon emplacement. But let's go ahead and go into another little thing this thing does. And unfortunately, this guy happens to be broken here because you're normally supposed to just flip this thing up and it would stay up. Well, unfortunately, mine had snapped off here with the little pegs. I'm probably going to get into doing maybe some little custom thing here, maybe run a bar or something through, because this is hollow. So I would be able to possibly maybe run a bar completely across and this will never come off. This does come as a assembly that you would actually have to put on if you did buy this guy brand new. He does have capability for you to pull the wings off, and if you do, these are little bits here that you need to kind of watch out for, these little mushroom things. They can break off very, very easily if you are in the aftermarket trying to find one of these, so just keep that in mind when you're out there. The other thing, the reason why I took this off, so that way you can see this crazy engine detail going on here. This is just really interesting that they would put this here. I don't know whether this would have been engine detail or just a gigantic fuel depot, considering this is literally right behind the intakes for the jet system itself. So, I don't know. It's one of those things you use your imagination, right? It's imagination. Myself, I think that's more of a fuel depot, considering this is a very large bay to be able to store other vehicles. And the other thing I really liked is the fact that they made this like a slanted wall. They didn't, just go straight down and just chintz out on it. They really made this thing cool. And when it comes to buying Backlash, the other thing you really want to look out for is this. This is another one of those peg issues. This thing is not broken on mine, thank God, knock on wood. But this is one of those things that tends to get broke a lot when it comes to trying to find one of these guys on the aftermarket. So keep that in mind when you are out there trying to find one. Anyhow, let's move away from this jet thing and go into that little tank I yanked out, shall we? Moving on to that tank thing, yeah. This is a small little mobile artillery tank. This is something that actually they would probably deploy out on the battlefield, while the bomber would take off and go and get another payload to bring back. It's actually got a cool little gimmick here where the cannon does move up and down, ever so slightly, but it does. And it does have a 180-degree double barrel turret here. It's got a lot of molded detail throughout the entire thing as well. Well, mine's a little beat up, a little dirty, but that's what happens to these things over time. Some really, really decent detail here going on throughout the treads, and it's just filled with this. I like the idea that it does have these little retro boosters on the back, so that right there would be like an extra push this thing would get as it's going across the battlefield. And it's also got a nice little, what seems to be an entryway hatch. Considering a lot of people don't realize this one, Megaforce, these things supposed to be like the size of, this thing is just huge, like much bigger than any other vehicle you probably ever see out there. And what else is really cool about this is if you tilt this thing, you can let the smaller vehicle out of the back, because this thing actually would transport smaller tanks in the very back payload area. It does have these two little rolling wheels here on the bottom, so it would roll pretty good. The front one here kind of catches a little bit, but you know, that's come to be expected, especially how old these are. I mean, these guys did come out in 1989, so I mean, these things are pushing quite a few years. It does still have the missile launching gimmick, like both, which are very successful missile launching gimmicks. I mean, this thing is awesome. I love the idea that this thing actually had a spring-loaded missile launcher on it. Quite a few of them did, but not quite as accurate as this one. I always like this one much better. But taking those missiles out lets you see a little bit more of the actual detail this thing has. It's pretty cool. I actually like the idea that they didn't overdo it on detail also. They could have really crammed a bunch of detail in here, but it really wasn't necessary. Anyhow, let's move on to that little teeny tiny tank I just pulled out there, right? Moving on to that little bitty tank. Yeah, the teeny tiny thing. These things were like the size of a micro machine. This thing is loaded with detail, especially how small this thing is. It is really cool that it actually does have a moving turret. And one thing I've noticed on this one here is the tracks, and it used to be right there. See remnants of it right there. And that's where they actually marked it. It's really cool that this green actually matches the jet and the smaller transport attack vehicle. I like this. This is really, really cool. I love the detail. The detail on this thing is just amazing because, you know, I really think Kenner probably went through almost everything Gloob was doing at the time and said, hey, we're going to try to make our own. And they did. They made these little guys. As you can see, it does have quite a bit of paint chip, but that's because these guys were solid die cast. Most of the time you would actually find all this right here rubbed off not very long after kids would have them, because these things don't have wheels. It does happen to have a large port right here on the bottom, that big square peg. That is not just for assembly, but that there is for this thing to successfully set in the back of Backlash without the large transport vehicle. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some Megaforce. Yes, Megaforce. I'm talking Triax. I'm talking the largest vehicle that has ever been produced for Kenner Megaforce, the Goliath. This thing is absolutely huge. If any of you guys out there happen to collect any larger playset toys, let me give you guys a bit of a size comparison with my Generation 2 Optimus Prime. He is a big guy. He's very large. This is definitely a toy that will end up dominating an entire shelf on your displays. Just giving you guys a bit of a comparison there. And this thing isn't even open yet to even show you what it does. The Goliath is jam-packed with gimmicks and awesome armaments all over this entire toy. This toy has got one of the most interesting decos, on top of the fact that this thing has so much panel detail just throughout the entire toy. This thing is the ultimate carrier for your Triax army. It is literally the largest vehicle that was ever produced by Kenner for this toy line. The detail throughout this entire thing is absolutely amazing. It's got many different little turrets throughout the entire toy. Not to mention a couple things mine happens to be missing, but there happens to be a couple pieces here that's supposed to stick up, that's supposed to be like little sensor array type of towers that's supposed to basically stick up here. That's primarily the biggest thing that is actually missing on him, other than a secondary silver turret. Mine happens to just be only housed with one at the moment. As you guys can tell, this thing is enormous. It's got a lot going on with it, and it's a very, very, very cool toy. This thing has brought the A game when it comes to the Triax army. There is not another army out there that is going to be carrying as much armament as this thing happens to do. It's got amazing detail throughout the entire command unit up at the front, all the way to the very back, which is pretty much its support unit, and where a lot of the gimmicks and such start working. It does happen to have ways to access it from this outside portion without even really opening up the main innards of this entire vehicle. It does happen to have these large ramps that come down to allow you, if you want to, take a smaller Triax vehicle, turn it, and then just let it slide all the way down. It allows it to slide all the way to this point and then all the way out. So that way you can actually access the battlefield from this thing being in its transport mode. It also happens to have a couple larger things here on the front for what would be primarily for your helicopters or VTOLs. I happen to put a couple VTOLs up here because I think this is a really, really cool little command unit up here at the front. This entire front portion here is just loaded. Now, unfortunately, one of my guns here has been maimed, but this is actually supposed to have like a large sonic rifle type of thing here that sticks off the end. Mine's just happens to have been neutered, but that's okay. You know, you can say it's battle damage or it's going through a different type of, I don't know, modification or whatever. You also have a large cannon here on the front that does happen to kind of move around, considering the tower here does kind of move up and down too. This is an actual functioning mechanism that we'll get into a little bit later. This thing's also got, like I said, many little turrets here on the sides that can move. The towers would primarily be sitting here, and then it would have another one of those silver turret guns right here. It's not much to look at when it comes to looking at the back of this thing, though. This is primarily where a lot of the gimmicks and such start coming to life, from the back portion. This thing actually would be layered with a lot more sticker detail. Right here would be a gigantic Triax sticker. I happen to not have. I know there's supposed to be a few other detail stickers here that are supposed to be on the back. This is something I really wish Repro Labels would probably jump onto. Repro Labels, aka Toy Hacks, as you guys know. It would be awesome to see them pretty much just release an entire sticker sheet that's for the entire line on one sticker sheet, because really it's not a large. These toys don't have too terribly amount of stickers, but honestly it'd be really cool to see them just release the stickers so we can re-sticker up our Megaforce vehicles. I know a lot of guys out there are kind of suffering on that end, but you know, this just kind of shows you exactly how big this thing is. This thing is enormous. It is one of the coolest toys that came out of that line. I myself am loving the idea that I actually own one that is in very good condition, but these things are getting harder and harder to find, it seems. One interesting thing I do not happen to have, it's supposed to be a little jet. The jet is primarily the same thing from the Bomber Attack Squadron. It was the little guys that I reviewed a little earlier. These kind of jets. It primarily would have been close to the same color of the kind of off-white color here that the primary the primary skeleton or chassis of this whole thing's built out of. It would be in that color, along with some gray striping going throughout it, with a little black cockpit picked out with the Triax emblem. That's primarily the difference. I have not been able to find one of those anywhere on the aftermarket to be able to replace, to add to this thing to complete it. It's the only thing I'm actually really missing, other than a couple towers and the other turret that's supposed to go here. But everything else here is complete. It's all there. And this thing is just huge. Now, one cool thing that this thing actually does, and you do have to do this, you do have to remove all your tanks, and this actually has a layering all the way through the top here, just that way you can just put tanks all the way up to primarily the ramping portion, which would be about where the doors slant, and you would want to stop putting tanks about there, otherwise they'll start sliding down into the body and trying to come out the doors. But I'm going to primarily remove all these and then show you guys what this thing does. As you can see, the Goliath is a very, very large vehicle when it's actually put into its base form. This thing is pretty much taking up my entire reviewing area here. It is really big. I mean, I can't even really reach it because I have to be this far back from it with my camera just to get it all in one shot for you guys. This thing is huge. It is pretty much dwarfs most toys that came out during that era. I do like the idea that this thing has so many different gimmicks when it comes to even its opening and presentation. It's really neat. We're going to take a little closer look at the entire thing as a whole. Throughout the entire thing, there's so many gimmicks and different things going on, and I'm literally going to have to get up close and personal to be able to show you this. But I did want you guys to see how big this thing is when it actually is in its full-on spread. And I'm going to use my G2 Prime. There you go. It's big. Yeah. I don't even think you could carry it as a trailer. Anyway, there you go. Kind of gives you a bit of an idea of how big it really is. Anyhow, let's go ahead and start getting a little closer to this thing and check out all the gimmicks and the detail. First thing we're going to check out is this entire command deck. This is pretty much the heart of everything that goes on. A lot of your vehicles and such would primarily be kind of parked throughout the entire thing down these little ramps, sometimes just parked here in the middle. There's just all different kinds of places that you can put these vehicles throughout the entire toy itself. This is literally your command center. The access ramps are still accessible to the ground as long as these are up high enough. That is one thing, having those towers would help, because it kind of helps hold these up high enough so that way your vehicles can literally use those ramps. That's one thing, like I said, I do not have, unfortunately. But it is kind of neat that this entire thing can literally be used like that, and then you can take a vehicle and then roll it right off the edge, and then it can go on down here and do whatever it's going to go do, which is neat. I do like the idea that this thing actually has playability all the way to the ground, all the way up into the sky with the landing platforms, which we'll get into that and what all that tower does here in a few minutes. But I wanted you guys to see just the detail this thing has got. It is jam-packed throughout the entire thing. There is a reason why this whole front portion here does look different. I will get into this thing here in a few minutes, but this thing has got plenty of places to be able to land and park jets. It's got an enormous amount of detail. a lot of this diamond plating kind of grippy stuff throughout the entire toy is all over it. Not to mention these little bitty pieces here which go over the hinges to allow you to be able to park vehicles even out here onto the sides of this vehicle. It is really neat that they literally made it so that way this thing is a gigantic parking garage for all of your Triax army. So that way they can get ready to, get ready to arm up and deploy for whatever battle you guys want them to do. Now there's normally a lot of pinstripe detail throughout this entire part. A lot of these places here would actually have pinstripe details because of the decals. I do not have, unfortunately. Maybe in a customizer I might be able to paint that, but I don't really want to do any of that to devalue this toy. This toy is already awesome and very difficult to get hold of as it is, and I do like this thing. This thing is amazing. I just love the idea that it actually has little bombs kind of molded into the base here, as if you would just use this right here maybe to arm up your rocket launchers, or you're loading them onto jets to be able to use them. Just all different kinds of things. And what else is neat is this entire thing right here that's up at the front actually has a ramp that comes up, allow you to be able to park a vehicle onto it. And what's crazy is when I open this up, these vehicles here, the little rocket launchers, were the only ones I did not have on the inside. All this right here was encased on the inside when I did open it up. It does have room for all these vehicles to stay in storage inside this thing when it's all folded into its nice little compact vehicle. This large portion here on the front is a vehicle in itself, and it rolls completely out, allowing you to actually have access to a very large ramp here on the front, so that way you can actually park your vehicles along here if you feel like putting them here, while the larger transport, or I would primarily say this is like your scouting vehicle to just go in and clear the way for the whole convoy to follow behind it. This is a great area in order to deploy from, which I do like this. This thing's got so much playability. That's the whole point of a play set, is to have you just gives you options. That's the big thing here. Now what's crazy about this thing is it's actually got a couple of indentions here, and these indentions here are for when you fold down the tower. The tower actually will fit into these, so that way it makes it have a fitment where it needs to go when it's completely folded up. But let's take a little closer look at that tower and see what all it does too. Taking a closer look at the tower itself, the tower has a lot of gimmicks going on throughout it. At the very top you have this entire command module that is pretty much like a radio tower that any airport would have, so that way it can communicate with any incoming aircraft, or even give out commands if they were under attack. It actually has 4 different places that you can put your aircraft, whether it be helicopters or VTOLs. It's very neat that they actually have this as an ability to put on top of this entire tower. It gives it a little bit more playability, especially at the top. But the really interesting thing that this thing has is a working elevator. Yes, this actually has an elevator much like the Thor hammer, except for this one is a little more involved. This elevator actually has ability for you to be able to store up to 10 vehicles inside its bay, which is really cool because it allows you to be able to deploy 2 at a time if you feel like, with this loading ramp. The vehicles that normally will fit very well in here are your tanks and your rocket launchers. The anti-aircraft tank gun vehicle, that one tends to stick out a little too far and bumps into the mechanism itself that slides up and down. Depending on the age and how much playability, kind of tells you how your elevator is going to work. Mine seems to be a little bit stiff at times and kind of sticks a little, but it really doesn't take away from the actual toy itself. It's just really interesting to see that this has a elevator that will allow you to go all the way down to the very bottom, even all the way down to the ground, although you have to kind of lift your vehicle over the hump that is located here at the very bottom. But it does allow you to take your vehicles and let them drive into the main bay of the entire base and then roll on out these sides to deploy out to the battlefield. I do like this cool gimmick. It's a really neat hidden feature to allow you to be able to store more vehicles inside this thing and not have to worry about them falling out anywhere. Even if you had the rocket launchers, the cages that these things are in will not allow your rockets really to fall out or go anywhere to actually lose them. It's a really neat little gimmick that they really didn't even need to include, but they did. They made this right here as the primary function of this tower. I do like that they really threw some detail inside of it as well. The detail of the tower itself is just jam-packed. It's got so much detail throughout the entire thing, just all over it, whether it's a little bit of diamond plating here or there, or if it's just the greeble that's put here on the elevator portion itself, just all the way throughout the entire toy. Now this does happen to have one of the original stickers on here. Sadly I do not have the other one, but that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of kind of some of the detail that the stickers actually have for this thing. Taking a look at the little deploy vehicle. This vehicle is really cool. It's got a lot of little gimmicks within it. The only thing sadly is this one here is missing is the other gun. There's supposed to be two of these little guns. One's supposed to be here and one goes here. But that is primarily the only thing that is even missing on this thing. It is a really neat little vehicle. It does happen to have a gimmick much like Ram Fist. This thing is actually designed to do what the other vehicle was allowed to do, which was moving, you know, enemy vehicles out of the way. I like this gimmick. This is a great gimmick, and I think it's something that is missing from a lot of toys nowadays. Is, you know, it's little gimmicks like this that interact with the enemy. You know, so say you got like a little army of tanks coming in this direction, right? Well, if you want to get them out of the way, all you primarily do is just drive into them and then move them out of the way, just like that, just like scissors, you know. Primarily scissors. These things are spring-loaded, so they will snap back every time. It's a neat little gimmick. I do like it. So it allows you to be able to move your enemy tanks out of the way. That's primarily what this thing is designed for. Another cool little gimmick this thing actually has is something that it really didn't need, and that is a secondary elevating system. You just push this little button here on the side and it will let your little tank just roll right out the back. I do like this. This is really cool. It does have the ability for you able to plug two of your tanks here on the back, so that way you can carry three at a time. It's neat to have this little forward defense kind of thing, like this guy's going to pave the way for Goliath to come rolling through, or say he's doing that just to get Ramfist to come through, which Ramfist really doesn't need his own, but you know, you see what I'm getting at. Maybe a crossbolt needs to come through here and he doesn't really have enough to move anything out of the way, so they just bring this guy through. I do like this. This is a very neat little addition that they did not necessarily need to add to the toy itself. Considering this thing came with a die-cast plane to play with, they gave you guys a secondary vehicle to play with. I like this thing. It's very detailed. It's got a lot of greeble going on throughout the entire, just this whole area here for the parking area. It's just, it shows where, you know, it might have like turbines here for where the motors are, and it's got lights picked out, and this is primarily your cockpit forward area would be this entire area here. Well, it would have been neat to see some sticker detail or maybe some paint right here, but that was the big thing about these guys. They didn't really do a lot of paint on the actual plastic pieces. They did it primarily on the vehicles, which I can't really complain much about that, but this is a very neat little forward defense vehicle. It fits the bill, and it fits inside Goliath, and it's not even obstructing anything. If anything, it gives you more places to put vehicles within the playset. Anyhow, let's go back to that big thing, shall we? Taking a look at Goliath in his folded up mode, even with this being out, it still even looks really proper. This toy is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot recommend this thing more to anybody out there that really wants to get into Megaforce. This should be your crown jewel and the thing you should really try to shoot for, especially if you're getting to the point that you've got bins upon bins of the little die-cast vehicles and not really a place to put them. This thing really interacts very well with all the Megaforce vehicles. Even if you want to throw a couple V-Rocks on top of the Trax vehicle, you can. This thing is just amazing. I love this toy. Unfortunately, the underside of it really lackluster on detail. That's one thing I noticed about this toy, but to be honest, who's really going to pick this toy up and set it on its back or something? I mean, this thing was designed to be massive, pretty much like a rolling city, and it does fit the bill. It really does. It kind of really shows how awesome this toy line really is. This toy, to me, is the crown jewel of your Megaforce collections. Now, if you guys are out there trying to find one, they are pretty difficult to find, especially trying to get one complete. I myself have not seen any complete for a while out there, even on the secondary market. So just keep an eye out there. There are some that pop up here and there, and most of the time they are missing quite a few parts, so just be aware of that. Like I said, mine is missing the two little towers that stick up here that primarily act as kickstands when they're flipped open. But other than that, and missing the other little turret, this thing's actually in pretty good condition considering the age. These things are very neat, and there is a bit of yellowing starting right here, and I think that right there was primarily because of the stickering detail it once had at one time right there on the front. Could be just some of the glue residue. I really haven't gotten into trying to clean this thing up completely, like tooth and nail or anything, but at least it's not a complete dusty mess and, you know, crazy. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Kenner Megaforce. Yes, Megaforce. You know those toys I've been reviewing here past? Yeah, more. I have more. Plenty more. Anyway, let's move on and check out the T-Rex Bomber Squadron. Here's a T-Rex Bomber Squadron. These things are really, really cool looking planes. Probably the most modernized looking planes that really could kind of fit into anything nowadays. I mean, these things don't really look that weird, although they do have a bit of a futuristic approach to them. The entire set itself will come with a aircraft launching mechanism, along with 3 of the jets. One being the command jet, and the other 2 being just your standard run-of-the-mill aircraft. Taking a closer look at the primarily the standard run-of-the-mill ones, this thing's actually got quite a bit of detail throughout the entire toy. I love the panel lining this thing has got. It's got quite a bit going on here, along with the little teeny tiny bits of blue just kind of picked out here and there throughout the entire thing. Not to mention the little bitty red striping and the T-Rex emblem right there on its wing. It's got a lot of detail here, even being picked out throughout the cockpit and even the nose cone. I do like the idea this thing has a decent looking little silhouette. It's very cool looking. It does have a bit of a black part here picked out here on the back of the tail fin, not to mention it doesn't really have any painting going on here, although it would have been cool to see them just paint that like black or something here for the rocket nozzle, you know, like where all the exhaust comes out. It's very interesting seeing this thing. I do like this aircraft a lot. These were a big thing when I was a kid, and I had this set, and I love this set. This set is so cool. On the bottom half of this thing, it's got 3 little bitty bombs that come on a single peg system. It's got the 2 little pegs, go right in the 2 little holes right there on the bottom. This is primarily the one piece that you will end up having issues trying to find if you're trying to find an out-of-the-box version of this, or the person you're trying to purchase on eBay. You know, if they only have pictures from above, you need to ask them, hey, does it come with the little missiles? Because those right there would complete the set for you, unless you're getting them pretty discount and you don't really care about the missiles, so that is all on you. does have a very sky blue color. I do like that a lot about the two smaller, or not really smaller, but the two support aircraft. Taking a closer look at the larger command one, the command one's got a lot more red picked out. It's got a little bit more on the wings here on the very back. In the very back wing is solid black all the way to here, and it has a little bit of a red stripe, and then, you know, they just primarily just painted this here black instead of just leaving it like the other ones. It does have the cockpit extension where the back window is actually picked out, unlike the other ones, which is fine, because, you know, this shows that maybe this in here holds two pilots versus a single pilot. On the bottom half of this actually comes with a much larger bomb, not the little triplet bomb, and it pegs in much like the other two. It's pretty much the same kind of pegging system, which is kind of nice. I do like the detail, and speaking of detail, look at all the look at all the panel lining on this thing. It's amazing just how much detail they can really pack into a little bitty piece of die cast. And these guys are fully die cast, except for the little bombs here. These are plastic that go in there. It does have the little peg here on the bottom, by the way, so that way you can actually peg it into any of the little square port systems that you just slide it into. Taking a look at the support aircraft carrier looking launching mechanism, this thing is really interesting. It literally looks like a miniature aircraft carrier, which I thought that was just the funniest thing in the world. It's got little bitty guns just kind of picked out here and there throughout the entire toy, not to mention the command tower right here on the side. It does successfully, though, let the jet set on it, which kind of gives you a little bit of playability to this. Makes it sound like maybe this might not be a catapult. If you don't really want to treat it as a catapult, maybe it's a repairing mechanism or whatever you want to use it as, because, you know, it's your toy, it's your imagination, do whatever you want with it. But myself, I always thought these were kind of like little catapult launchers or something like that. I mean, it's way too small to be an actual aircraft carrier, considering you can only put one on here. I mean, if you really want to put more, you can stack them on top of each other, but that was just silly. But yeah, that's what it does. It's a really, really neat little set. This set isn't very difficult actually to find on eBay. I found this set quite often, sometimes still on the blister card. If you do find them on the blister card, though, they tend to run you a little bit more. But price-wise, these guys are pretty reasonable out there. They're not too outrageous. They're very neat little jets, and they're a nice little army building addition, especially if you're trying to build up a Tyrex airfield. These things are really cool. I do like the detail. The build quality is great. And they're nice little toys. I mean, even though they've been beat up throughout the years a little bit, and anything I can see wrong with these, honestly, the only problem I can ever see maybe ever happening to this is maybe this top end here might get bent or something. But I think it would take quite a bit of force really to do that, unless, you know, some kid grabbed it with pliers or something and broke it off. But, you know, that's primarily the only part I can even see anything going wrong with, other than losing the missile. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some Kenner Megaforce stuff. Yeah, we're just continuing on with that line, and we're going to take a close look at the largest vehicle out of the V-Rocks, called the Thor Hammer. This thing is massive. It is a large rocket launching base. It almost looks like an aircraft carrier in a way. The entire command center and everything's way back here at the very back, just like an aircraft carrier. This thing is insanely detailed. There's so much going on with this particular toy. This toy is loaded with gimmicks. It's got a lot of gimmicks going on with it. The color scheme is really interesting. I like how they have just went ahead and molded the very bottom portion of this entire thing in this kind of a darker chocolate color brown, along with this kind of an off-white, almost a gray go on here up top. Not to mention it, they just packed this thing full of detail throughout the entire thing. They even brought some of that brown onto the top of the deck, which you'll be able to see a little better pictures of. Speaking of the entire gimmick line of this thing has got a lot. So let's go ahead and cover the little bitty die-cast tank it comes with first, and then we'll continue on with the large enchilada here. Thor Hammer comes with this little bitty, teeny, tiny tank. This is primarily one of the little battle tanks that you normally get in the battle packs. He is identical to the original release. It's got the 3-pack. He's just identical, just sculpting-wise, but color-wise, there is a major difference going on here. I like how they have picked out the entire treads on this guy with like a really kind of like gunmetal color going throughout here, and then brought in a real decent desert camo color with this, it's almost like an orangish brown, and then just straight up tan for the turret. It does have the ability to go around 360 degrees, and these things are just packed with detail. If you guys have seen my other review of this thing, it's identical. It's the same tank. It's just a different color, which I really do like this color. It's very neat looking. He does happen to have the V-Rocks emblem right there on the side. No other paint tampos other than that, but honestly, I think that was enough paint tampoing on him. He didn't really need much more. But these things are really hefty die casts if you haven't seen those. And it does have the little port on the bottom for the little square peggage that these guys can plug into. Very neat that it actually comes with a small tank that doesn't look like anything else in the entire line. This guy is exclusively only comes with the Thor Hammer. So let's go back over to that big rocket launcher, shall we? Taking a closer look at the Thor Hammer. This thing is just loaded with guns. This thing is literally a battleship that drives around on the ground. It has got so many turrets all over it. Every turret has ability primarily to do 360 degrees, but some of them are limited to its placement actually on the toy. The ones that are really apparent that can do 360 are the ones out here that's on this primarily a loading ramp, and then it's got the one here that's right next to the tower that can almost do a 360, but you know, if you're shooting that direction, you end up shooting into the tower, which you don't want to do that because you know that can cause bad things to happen. It's got quite a few here on the front. These front implement cannons can only move so far, but it's really neat that there's this many on the front of the entire vehicle. I do like the idea that they do have things that are kind of asymmetrical here. Nothing is, you know, there's no symmetrical portion to this toy. This toy is completely asymmetrical, and I love that about it. It really does look unique. It's very cool with the color that they've just picked out throughout this entire thing. I just like the idea that the turrets, all of them are silver. It's neat to see something like that kind of pick out. Even on this launching mechanism here, you actually have a turret that moves up and down, which is kind of nice. What else is really cool is how many wheels this thing has. It's loaded with wheels all the way throughout it, and they didn't even leave out the little bitty guns that are actually down next to the wheels. They put in a couple extra turrets underneath where they really didn't necessarily have to do, but they did. They added these in. It would have been neat to see these things move up and down, but honestly, parts count and toys throughout the years, those right there probably would have easily gotten lost because of how small they are. I mean, they're primarily at the size of like maybe like a needle or so. So I wonder if they don't like poke you, but they're not. They won't hurt you. They're not like a rubberized plastic, but they are kind of a plastic. Kind of, you bend it too many times, it will snap. But they are really durable. It's very neat. I do like the large rocket launching mechanism this thing has. It's got a very cool tower. This tower has ability to lift into 3 positions, and the 3 positions is primarily however far you want to fire off the rockets themselves. To do the entire activation of the launching mechanism, you'll primarily just move this lever up, And when you do, like I said, it goes to 3 different V tanks, which is kind of neat. And then to actually fire the rockets, you have a little bitty button on the side, but that's after you primarily push your rockets all the way in, they will fire away. Mine's a little temperamental. Sometimes it will fire when I push the rocket in, almost immediately try to fire it out of my hands, and then sometimes I have to jiggle it just to get it to do it. This is pretty much going to be your mileage varying on that, considering, you know, these mechanisms can kind of wear out throughout the years. But it also depends on the care and everything of the missiles. This missile here has kind of had its share. It looks like, you know, I didn't buy this one brand new, but it looks like it had its share with maybe somebody putting it in its mouth, maybe a dog got hold of it a little bit here. It's a little crumpled here, but I mean, honestly, it still fits in here just fine, and it actually fires just no problem whatsoever. So I really haven't had much of an issue. And these things are actually a pretty durable kind of plastic. They're very rigid. They do fire pretty good. They're not going to fire completely across the room, but they do have a little bit of range. The other thing I really like is this little glider that it comes with. It's jet primarily. I mean, it's like a little bomber jet, and this is something that you really didn't even need to include, but I like the idea that they did. It gives you a bit of variety when it comes to firing off things off this thing instead of a large rocket. It does have ability to just stow right here within the tower mechanism, which is kind of nice that you actually have a place to dock the glider, bomber, or whatever you guys really want to call this thing. Now, the other thing that this thing really, the only disappointment I would say is the entire missile itself does not come off. It's actually attached throughout the back. If you were one of those crafty kind of people, I'm sure you guys can probably go through and, you know, unpeg this thing and pull the entire missile off. But to be honest, I really wouldn't do that. It would kind of ruin it, because considering you can't really attach this missile any other way other than the mechanism it actually has, unless you're crafting and decide to do some modding and use magnets or something. Although some of you guys out there I know could do that kind of thing. Another cool, really interesting gimmick I like about this thing is this entire loading mechanism that I was talking about earlier. This loading mechanism has ability to just drop tanks primarily right off into a battlefield. And what's neat about this entire mechanism is the fact that you can actually store 2 more tanks within the storage area, so that way they can just drive right on out, and allowing you to send your entire squad out with no problems whatsoever. It's very neat. I like this gimmick. This is a gimmick that I wish I saw more of this in toys nowadays. I like the idea of just elevator gimmicks. This was primarily a thing that they had throughout the 80s and 90s. It's just more toys had elevators back then. I mean, even in the 70s, quite a few of your Hot Wheel toys had them. But I do like the idea that they implemented an elevator gimmick in this thing that really wasn't even needed, but they did. Along with the weight of the tanks, they slide right off with no problem whatsoever. I tried this earlier, and this tank here, when I was actually dropping this entire elevator off, it caught this turret here on the side. Sometimes that might happen when you play with this thing, but it's really neat. I do like this. The other great thing I absolutely love about this toy is the fact that even when you have the entire tower raised completely up, it's got places to be able to put a helicopter or maybe a VTOL. If you really wanted to put a jet there, you could, but I do like the idea that it almost has like a landing platform, almost like an aircraft carrier. It's not quite big enough to become an aircraft carrier, but I do like the idea that it's just got enough detail and places that you can place things on this thing. My recommendations when it comes to getting one of these guys is things to look out for. Primarily, okay, make sure it's got all the wheels. These wheels are all single axle. They are actually one solid molded piece. And it's going to kind of gives me a bit of an opportunity here to show you the bottom of this thing. How much detail they even put on the bottom of this toy that was not even really necessary. And it's really neat to see that. And you know, it looks like they might have in the past probably had an idea of maybe either Maybe making it motorized, I don't know. I like the idea that it has these little split pieces here in the axles, but I'm not sure if that might have been something they were looking at. Not to mention the wheels being split like this. Maybe they might have had an idea to put treads on these way back then, but I'm not absolutely sure when it comes to what the designing aspect of the engineering on this toy would have been. But it's really cool to see that kind of detail just thrown throughout the entire toy. And what's nuts about this, I mean, it's even got just diamond plating back here, like underneath. Like, this isn't really necessary, and they put it there. I just love the idea how much detail they literally packed into these. These things are amazing. The only thing that I can say about mine is mine actually has a problem with the elevator. The elevator itself is completely unpegged, as you can tell, but mine, the little piece here that kind of cups over it is supposed to primarily just clip right in. Well, it has broken off on mine, but that doesn't mean that every one of them out there are going to suffer from that. This is probably because the kid that was playing with it all the time, you know, eventually it broke, probably because he played with it so much. And that's okay, because, you know, some people will be like, well, why don't you, have a pristine one? Well, I like toys that have a little bit of age on them. I don't mind them being played with. Not to mention the stickers. Stickers on this thing, they're all over it. And I know for a fact I'm probably missing some, because actually when I first got this, I had a few that literally just fell off in the box. And I tried to apply them to put them back on, and they're a lot like those G.I. Joe stickers. They are clear backed, and if you don't do it the correct way, they will look horrible. You'll see hair and dirt and everything else underneath them. But it's really cool having an opportunity to be able to show you guys this piece. This thing is absolutely awesome. It is the largest vehicle that Verox ever produced. I do know there are a few out there that did not reach the production market, but I will get into going to a video about that way later in the future. But this is a really, really, really awesome piece. If you guys are one of those ones that want to collect like your Verox armies and such, I mean, this thing is a very, very good piece to have, especially when you have quite a few other vehicles to kind of put in here with it. I mean, it just kind of shows you how much of a scaled army you can have, especially if you have this thing here as your centerpiece. It's primarily the flagship of the group. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more of these Megaforce things. And this one here is a Verox vehicle called Thunderbolt. Here's Thunderbolt. It is a gigantic carrier, much like your aircraft vehicle carriers that they have nowadays, where they actually carry like a payload. This thing is really neat. One thing mine is missing are the gigantic blades. It's supposed to be a helicopter, but to be honest, even without the blades, it still is really cool because it still looks like it has gigantic jet engines, so it still works. That's something, you guys can kind of look past when it comes to purchasing one, if you do happen to have one without blades. Because imagination, imagine that. Anyhow, let's go ahead and check out this little rocket launcher it comes with. The rocket launcher is completely different on this one. It is a really dark brown with this crazy color of like, I don't know, it's almost like a royal blue kind of deco. It does have the tampooning right there on the top for its Verox faction. Not to mention the rocket itself has got all the same kind of markings that the other ones do that I had reviewed earlier. If you haven't seen that review, go back and check it out. But he doesn't have a whole lot of other detail. A little bit of black marking there inside the vents on the back, but that is primarily it. This little die-cast thing is just packed with detail and it is awesome, and go get them because they're cool. Anyhow, let's move on and look at the main event here. Let's look at Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is a gigantic carrier, like I said. It's got a lot of guns on him. It's got these guns here that can move up and down on the nose portion, not to mention these that are on the engine pods, and these will turn completely around, so they do 360 degrees. It does also have the missiles here, and these missiles come off just like your G.I. Joe vehicles, they have the whole dog bone thing going on. And it has a lot of riveting detail and such throughout the entire missile itself. These things are a bright orange, so they're really cool. It does look neat. And it adds a whole lot of, you know, a little more playability to this thing other than it just being a carrier. Taking a look at the carrier itself, this entire cockpit is just packed with just windows all over it. It's very interesting. This thing does look like something out of the Raiden games. I love it. And I like this style of camo they have, just kind of going in one angle, slashed all the way across the entire thing. It's very cool. It does add a lot to it. It almost looks like lightning bolts. You know, thunderbolt, get it? Anyway, the back's got a ton of detail packed in there. Just so much. You can see all this riveting and where the wheels are and all these hydraulic pistons, and it's just loaded. Not to mention the bottom. The bottom actually has a lot as well. You will have to excuse a little bit of the marker on here because I did get this in the aftermarket, and the previous owner apparently had their kid write their name on there. I cannot seem to get it off. I've tried different ways of trying to get it off, and I really don't want to damage the toy. But the engines themselves and these guns are just loaded with detail. There's so much little bitty rivets and just panel lining and just amazing stuff going on here. Not to mention the landing gear. It just has a lot going on for it, even under here. Now this does open. And the reason this here has an opening mechanism is because this is designed to allow you to pick up and drop off vehicles on the battlefield. It's a very cool gimmick, and I haven't seen this gimmick really used that much lately. It's just something you don't really see in toys anymore. Very cool detail here, even with a little bit of detail on the back as if those are windows in the rear. Another cool feature this thing has is it's got an opening canopy, and whenever you do open the canopy, you can easily put the tank or whatever vehicle you want to inside of it. And taking a look at the inside of this canopy, it actually does not have a whole lot of detail in here, which is really weird considering every one of these toys were loaded with detail on the inside. They didn't do much here. It is interesting though that they do have large window door kind of things here, so it's as if, you know, if they're paratroopers, they would just jump out the sides on this thing. I do like this thing a lot. Like I said, the only thing I can see as a flaw when it comes to these things is trying to find one with the helicopter blades. They do just pop onto these little things. And trying to find the little missiles that come along with it. Other than that, there's not much that can be broken on these, which is really cool. And it's a very solid little toy. I mean, it's not like you're going to have to assemble the whole mechanism on the back or even put the canopy on the front. So it's got a lot of playability throughout the whole toy and not have to worry about looking for a lot of lost parts. He does come with a little die-cast vehicle, this little rocket launcher, and that's primarily your lot for that.
Behind steel doors, locked from view, lies an army with a secret power. Introducing Megaforce, the army of hidden forces. Ramfist crushes the enemy while its secret elevator lowers an attack craft. Cargo planes pick up reinforcements. Missiles fire at will, and the helipad launches on your command. Each sold separately, the army of hidden forces. Megaforce from Kenner.
Welcome back to our Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Kenner Megaforce V-Rock style. These anti-aircraft tanks, because they're die-cast and plastic and awesome. Getting into these guys have almost an Arctic kind of deco going on here with this like really mute brown and light blue. Do like this. This is very cool. These things are just packed with detail. It's a very neat looking little tank. I just think these are so unique compared to anything else I've ever seen out there. I really do like these little scout tanks. It's got a little bit of detail here with the yellow here on the canopy along with the emblem right there. And it's kind of wearing off a little bit, and it's known to happen with plastic pieces. But that isn't all this little thing does. This thing actually stands on its end, and then you push the cannon down, and bam! You got an anti-aircraft tank mode, which is really interesting. I do like this. Kind of, shows that this base right here is actually pretty decent. These things don't really just fall over, and that's what I love about this. This is balanced great. I love the balance. The center of gravity here is just awesome, and I like the idea that there is some piston detail going on down there at the bottom, so that way it isn't just some big thing like the normal tanks where all it is a gigantic block on the bottom, where you actually do have some kind of detail under there. Not to mention, if you notice, the tread spacing is also different on this. Very cool. Do like it. Putting this one here aside with the other version of him, because it comes with two of those along with this big gigantic barricade. I'll get into that in a minute because it's kind of cool. But here's the command one, and it's got these gigantic yellow cannons with this big old, like, grayish blue turret portion here, along with the markings. The markings are slightly in a little different area here now, little yellows right over here now, along with the Tempo emblem and the awesome deco that it's got. And it obviously stands up just like its counterpart here. Very cool. I do like these little anti-aircraft tanks. It's just interesting seeing these things. What else this thing does, though, it's got this gigantic barricade here, and this barricade's actually got quite an amount of detail, and it's got these spikes and riveting bits and just things sticking off of it all over the place. And the back half actually does too. It's got this nice big plating here. It's like it's been double plated here for a reason, and this little ramp. But what you would do is you would drive your tank up like this and then park the barrels through the hole like that. This in here would just kind of stand over, so that way it'd shoot over that portion, and then you got this in here where you just have one that's normal tank mode and just fire through like a normal tank. I do find this really cool that this is a great little playability to actually integrate all the little die-cast vehicles into one piece of platform. Not many of them do this. All the rest of them are like a landing platform or just one little bridge or some kind of barricade to put them behind, but this allows all three to be used like this. It's very cool. I do like this. It's really cool finding these guys together if you guys are lucky enough to. They're really nice little army builders too, so if you guys want to go get those, just hop on that eBay out there and snag you some, because they're not really that expensive. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Megaforce V-Rock style. Start out with these rocket launchers. This is a V-Rock's rocket launcher set. This is exactly what you get in the box. All of this, including the rockets. It's very cool. These things are really weighty, and the only disclaimer I can say is if you're going to go out there and purchase any of these guys, just beware of the part count. That's all I gotta say, because the missiles do come off. Now let's look at the smallest ones, the Scout versions. Very tiny, very cool. So much detail packed into that. It's just insane. Like, look at all the detail. Not to mention this desert camo going on. Very, very cool. I do like these. These are just amazing. I love the little bit of cautionary striping going on here on the back of the cab along with the emblem. A lot of detail just packed in there. A bunch of mechanism and just cables and gears and cogs and just craziness going on down there. The missile, like I said, does come off. It just kind of just sits right here on this little armature type of thing. It kind of wedges in a little bit. Don't really want to push too hard. These are a slight rubbery kind of material, but they can break if you're really, really rough with them. But it is really neat seeing this thing. It's just very, very cool. So tiny. You look at the Just the detail alone, just amazing. Looking at the rocket, take a little rocket off. The rocket itself's actually got quite a bit of detail. Does have the tampering of the Xerox emblem right there on the back. A lot of winged goodness. They really didn't even skim out on the detail on the bottom of them either. Just lots. It's just like a big cruise missile would just go flying, just like a plane for like ever. I do like that. The set does come with 2 of those. Not to mention it comes with the command missile launcher, which I have tucked away here in its little bunker barricade kind of. I guess you would call this a bridge, but I think it's more a barricade kind of thing. But taking a look at him, he's got a lot of blue detail there going on with the window. That's primarily the biggest difference between the two, is just the blue detail there. There's a little bit of detail down in here, some kind of like black marking, but not anything else other than the gigantic rocket is much bigger on this one. Obviously it comes off just like the other one does. It does have a little bit more detail down inside the venting on the back as well. Just a slight amount, not a whole lot. And looking at the larger rocket though, larger rocket has kind of like these chevron markings going on with the star in the middle. It's just a much larger rocket. Very cool, lots of detail. Pretty neat. Do like it. And it sits down just like that. Now looking at the gigantic barricade bridge kind of thing it's got, this thing is really interesting. I mean, it's not like the attack tank's bridge. It's a lot more heftier. It's got more to it. It's got these pew-pew cannons here on either side, which look like they would just be there to, you know, kind of keep things from coming this way at you. Got a little bitty teeny tiny detail here just for primarily like scouting, I'm guessing. Those look like little seats, but I don't think those are seats. Not really sure what those are. All I know is it's really cool detail just on a little lump of plastic to play with your rocket launchers. Anyhow, like I said, if you guys want to try to look at these guys, you can find them out there on eBay. And normally, try to find out. You can try to find them as a set. If you can't find them as a set, then just go out there and just, you know, nab you an entire lot, because they're awesome. It's cool having many of these, especially so you can like really build up your army. Do like those, are really cool. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Megaforce Xerox style. Starting out with these battle tanks, you know, these gigantic type, you know, little Titan type of die-cast toys. These things are awesome. The little scout tanks, these things are really cool. I really like the detail these things have gotten. This camo is just like straight up desert camo. It's really neat. Just so much detail just crammed into that, and that's just insane. Obviously the turret can turn 360 degrees, which is kind of nice. And it does have a lot of paint work done on the top as well. A lot of detail in the treads. Just along the side, look at that. Look at all the little riveting detail, just crazy. They didn't skim out detail on these guys at all. I love these old tanks. These tanks are cool. They are about the size of a micro machine if you guys really want to know how big they are. Very hefty, very cool. The set for the battle tanks comes with 2 of those little scout guys. And not to mention the big command tank, which is this in here with double barrels. It's got a lot of the yellow paintwork there. It's identical on the base. The bases, there's no difference at all. It's just the turret. But it does enough to just, you know, be really cool. Some of these tend to get a little loose over time. So if you really needed to, you can kind of just push the little mushroom peg there and it'll tighten it up just a little bit. It does have a little bit of paintwork right here with a 21 right here on the fender, right here. It's all black, just black paintwork right there. Just teeny tiny bit of subtle detail they decided to add to it just to make it slightly different. It does have the letter B right here on the back, which is very difficult to see, but it's there. lot of detail on that. I just love small things that have hyper detail. This is just awesome. Really kind of gives you a bit of a scale. What else is cool is it comes with this bridge with these gigantic pew-pew cannons on the ends, you know? Pretty cool. I do like it. It's a nice little piece of plastic to drive your little tanks over. Just go vroom, 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 just like that. Pretty cool. It really adds to the ensemble. I love these little die-cast things. They're just cool. You should get some because they're awesome. And I can like fetch them out there on eBay. Normally you can find, sometimes you can find them as a set. Sometimes you'll be stuck having to buy them individually. Sometimes you're stuck buying them in a gigantic lot, and then you got to dig through and try to find what you need. But anyhow, welcome back to another Plasticon review. You know these Megaforce die-cast Kenner things. Yeah, we're going to continue on with those things with the Vrox attack helicopters. Yeah, these things. These little gray and bluish colored helicopters. Yeah, these things are awesome. And one thing you guys are going to notice already off the bat is like, where's his blade? I'll get into that in a little while, just to tell you about that. Anyhow, let's go ahead and cover the scout copters, the smaller ones. This thing is really interesting. It's got a ton of detail. It's even got like guns molded here into the sides of it. Not to mention the gigantic canopy it has. It's a nice big blue bubble. It does have the spinning rotors, although these rotors here tend to bend down a lot easier than the triax. So that's something to kind of be aware of. The design of this copter is pretty cool though. I do like that. Not to mention the gray. The gray is really cool. It's got these nice yellow markings here all across the back. It's just very interesting, just the detail and paintwork on these things. Really not a lot of detail on the bottom. The bottom doesn't have much at all. A little bit of panel lining, that's about it. But it is very, very, very cool. Very swooshable, as you know. Most people like to swoosh these things and go, you know, hit their helicopter sounds and such. It does have a little peg here on the bottom, so that way you can actually plug it into something like crossbolt or larger vehicles and such. Actually has a little thing, so, you know, plug it in the Strato Fortress, fly around. Anyhow, let's get on to the larger helicopter. The larger helicopter, obviously it's missing this blade. It's supposed to have 6 blades to spin around, and it had snapped off right here. This is a common problem that does happen sometimes with these, primarily because, you know, these things are kind of aged. It's got some really, really nice baby blue detail here on the tail fin. Not to mention the other canopy here being, you know, painted baby blue as well. That's primarily the only color difference between the two, and the fact that, you know, it would have 6 blades. The difference on the 6 blades, though, would be a little bit of extra striping right here on the right on the fin. It would be about right there is where they would actually have extra striping, not to mention the yellow tip. So just a little teeny tiny subtle detail really on the helicopter blades. But it does come with these platforms. This is a landing platform. It's got guns, PPUs, a bunch of PPUs, even a big PPU. And it's supposed to be a little maintenance bay. It's got a gas tank here, not to mention this right here is probably some kind of power generator or something like that in order to work on it. Very cool. I do like the detail on these little base plates that come with them, so, you know, it kind of gives it something to set on if you're going to put it on a shelf or something like that, or if you're going to set up a big diorama with these guys. It's very cool. Do like it. But anyhow, welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Megaforce. You know, those die-cast toys that I've been reviewing here for a while. Yeah, well, let's continue on with a triax with their attack helicopters. Unfortunately, there's only one thing I'm not having here, and that is the control tower that goes with these. As I've said before, that you can find these on eBay. 90% of the time you're going to find them. They're in a large lot, and it's very difficult to find that one little individual piece, such as a little plastic tower that goes with this set. Anyhow, let's take a look at the smaller version of the triax attack copters, and this is very, very identical to the one that came with crossbolt. It's got the blades that spin around with the little white markings instead of red like the black version of him. Not to mention some hyper detail, just little bitty red markings here and there, and the green and dark green camo going on throughout this entire thing. A little bit of white here picked out on his tail, and he does have the little peg here, so that way you can plug him on to crossbolt if you actually did want to. Little teeny tiny machine gun, white markings. Just the front windows are painted white on this one, not the back ones. The gigantic Triax emblem right there on the back. It's very cool. I do like my helicopters, and I like doing this. Now I'm going to give you guys a bit of a disclaimer when it comes to collecting these helicopters. These little metal pins here in the middle, they're easily snapped off, and sometimes the blade will be completely missing, or you might actually come and find one where it's completely missing a blade that's broken. This just happens with these toys because they are kind of fragile when it comes to the helicopter side. That's the only downfall that I can think of. But this set does come with 2 of them. They're both identical, and then it comes with the command chopper, which is really painted well. It's got the nice white windows there picked out, a little more detail, not to mention the white tail fin with the red going on here on the back, and 6 blades versus the 3. So this in here would actually, oops, sheesh, dropping everything. Anyway, these would actually come with the 6 blades, so this thing would actually have more thrust than the other 2 would. And the blades are greatly painted. They're painted with like nice white right here where the flaps are that are on the blades, because you know that helps change direction, so you can go up and down, backward and forward. And well, you know, since these are kind of a futuristic thing, I bet you they fly upside down. Speaking of upside down, though, there really is no detail hardly at all on the bottom, other than maybe just a little bit of panel lining, and the landing gear is being kind of picked out there. You know, it's very cool. I do like this thing. I just love the riveting. Look at the riveting. I mean, come on. How can you get toys that actually has riveting detail anymore? It's just not that often. Just all the detail, just hyper detailed throughout the whole thing. Anyway, this has been the Triax attack helicopter team. You guys stay tuned. I'll end up having some more because, you know, these guys are awesome and I love these things and they're so cool. And yeah, if you are in the market for trying to find these, you can find them on eBay. There are a few dealers out there through Facebook that might actually have some, but you know, Kenner Megaforce, they're awesome. Go get some. Anyhow, welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Megaforce Triax style, starting out with Strike Master. This is a gigantic shuttle launching system. I just love this thing. This thing is really cool. I have really got a thing for space shuttles, and I just love this thing. It's just interesting how they were able to integrate crazy technology like that into like a type of military vehicle. It's got a lot of molded detail throughout the entire front portion here. Not to mention has a couple little bitty turret guns here that can actually move back and forth as well. A lot of molded detail within the treads. The treads are very loaded with detail, and just a little bit just here and there throughout the whole thing. I really like this. I do like the idea that the thrusters here have a lot of molded detail within them. You can see a little bitty guns right there kind of molded, and then the shuttle itself actually has some guns molded on it as well on top, and then some tampooning of windows. Not to mention the launch control has windows on it as well. It's very cool, and obviously you can see it can actually have a payload for 2 small tanks. These actually just peg on just with the little port system that I went over with many Megaforce. This actually comes with this particular one right here, this little tank. This is just like Backlash's tank, except for it's green and gray, which is really cool. I like the detail that it has with the little tracks emblem right there, and then a lot of the little red lines painted on the top. Just a lot of detail just molded throughout this whole thing. The detail that they use on some of these smaller vehicles is pretty insane considering the size. A lot of the stuff is like the size of a pinhead that they're actually literally creating detail with. Very neat little tank. But taking a look at the shuttle portion itself, this actually has a launching system where you'll raise the entire vehicle up. This right here would pretty much be like a counterweight the way the front portion here would be. I mean, you can raise it up if you wanted to, depending on how tight this joint here is. This is a little loose on this one here. I happen to have like 3 of these, so this is probably not the best example, but it normally can just set up if you wanted to, but I tend to try to bring it down. It will, I mean, if you really wanted to push it all the way down, you could. So if you wanted to fire at troops down on the ground trying to get to the shuttle, it can. This reveals a lot more detail here throughout the body, which is really sleek, which is interesting that this is like a real sleek design versus, you know, being just kind of a big bulky mess. And the shuttle itself is on a rail system, so it would slide off, revealing a lot of rail detail here. It's a very skinny little tank system though whenever it's folded all up like this. This base piece here is really neat looking, especially when it's down in retracted form. You know, just it looks like a little, I don't know, it reminds me of some kind of like beetle bug or something. It's just really interesting. Could be like an alligator, I guess. That's just the size of it. I do like it. I like this little piece here a lot. Moving on, looking at the shuttle itself, the shuttle is just jam-packed with detail. And it's got really, really interesting parts to it. The big part that this thing has is a major gimmick that it does. And you got a little lever here on the back. And this lever here, you push it forward and it'll fire off the lower half, or the booster portion of the shuttle itself, allowing these wings here to spring out. Really neat, and I do like this portion here a lot. This is where it reveals a lot of the detail, tons of detail throughout this entire thing. Those panel lines all over the place. And not to mention, you can see where the launching system was right here, which it doesn't look as intrusive at all on the bottom. It looks like it might be part of the propulsion system on the bottom, as well as the awesome thrusters here. I do like this part of Strike Master. This is probably one of my favorite pieces to it. Look at this part here, it fired off. It's got this gigantic peg piece here. This obviously plugs into the shuttle. Large boosters. These boosters are insanely detailed. Look at just panel lines all over the place, ribbing here. You got guns that are bolted here. You also have a smaller cockpit here, which tells me that this right here would actually launch off as a booster portion for this to get this more or less in orbit, and then this part right here would actually glide itself back down because of the way the wings are designed. Way back in the 80s and 90s, NASA was actually trying to design a space shuttle that actually had wings that were, you know, in a weird vector like that will allow it to glide back down. So I don't know how crazy accurate aerodynamic that would actually be in real life, but I think it's pretty cool. It's real sci-fi looking. I enjoy it a lot. This thing here actually looks like a crazy fighter from like Battlestar Galactica or something. I really like it. It's very cool. It does have a lot of molded detail throughout the entire thing though. It's just pretty amazing. But I think this is probably one of the coolest Megaforce vehicles there are, just because of the crazy amount of stuff that this one here does. I mean, the other ones do a lot, but this one here really has a lot of play factor, and I think it's probably one that you're really going to want to go out there and hunt up. Things that can be wrong with this thing: first off, the entire firing mechanism for the shuttle could possibly not work. The little guns here on the front of the entire front here possibly could snap off, and just parts being missing. This little tank here is kind of hard to get hold of as well, considering I have 3 of these and only have 1 of these tanks. So that tells you pretty how kind of rare this is to try to find one with the tank. But other than that, sticker wise, yeah, it's going to be difficult to find them with all the stickers. I mean, even the shuttle itself should have stickers all over it. It should actually have the track emblems all over it, including on the wings, and it just doesn't, because stickers are very difficult to come by. It'd be really neat to see like the repro labels out there that does like G.I. Joe and stuff like that, if they would go in and actually do an entire Megaforce sticker sheet, maybe for like the entire collection, would be kind of cool if you just get like one sheet that's got them all. That'd be really neat, because a lot of people out there I think would love that. But this is a really cool gem, especially in a collection of military vehicles, and just, you know, this kind of harks toward the whole Defiant for G.I. Joe and Countdown for Transformer fanatics out there. Anyhow, this
Now you can take command of Megaforce.
Enemy sighted! Thorhammer in position! Steady! Tanks down! Fire at will! Bombs away! Shadow Fortress! Release fighter jet! Backlash bomber closing! Lock on target! Fire 1!
Megaforce. Entire armies at your command. Shadow Fortress and other vehicles sold separately. You have to put them together. From Kent. Megaforce.
Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Rock's Megaforce. Tonight, we're going to cover this guy called Brimstone. Yeah, Brimstone. A rocket launcher called Brimstone. This thing is literally kind of a straightforward type of vehicle. It's got a lot of camouflage going on here, which I think is really odd that they chose this real dark brown to go with this tan and green. It would have been cooler to see this more or less in a green color, but it's very cool. You can obviously tell it's a very large rocket on the end. It does raise up and down. It's got a lot of molded detail throughout it. Tons of molded detail. Just, it's insane how much detail is really put into this. It's got a lot of paneling. So you got a 121 tampoed there. That's the thing. This is all tampoing. There's no stickers on this at all. I do like the design, and I like the attention to detail with all the color. It's got a lot of grill stuff, like all underneath the missile launcher itself. It's just tons of detail. It does have a place here for an anti-aircraft tank to park, which is really cool. And a lot of diamond plate under here and everything else. Just this is where you would dock the other tank. I do like the idea that the feet of the anti-aircraft tank actually kind of meet up with this. So if this thing is driving fairly fast, it almost has like an aerodynamic thing going on, which, I don't know, I guess these things will travel fairly quick. Just thought it was interesting that they actually did that. That was something I don't think they necessarily had to do. It was really cool. It does fire the missile, although mine is a bit shoddy because it's so old. But sometimes it will and sometimes it won't. Mine's not firing at all. You're supposed to push this down and it should fire it off. Unfortunately, the spring mechanism in mine is not working very well. And like I had reiterated a couple times before in the past, the design of these, a lot of these are not designed to come apart. Look at the base detail underneath though. You can see where the axle goes through the wheels and actually holds the mechanism here that moves up and down. And everything here is actually kind of welded with a I would say like almost like a soldering gun that they use to push the plastic to kind of rivet this metal piece in to keep it from separating. But the fact is, this missile here, it's just very difficult to get to launch because I I guess the spring is so weak in it, or there we go. It's hard to get this off. Sometimes these launch, sometimes they don't. I happen to have a secondary one and it doesn't launch either. These tend to, I would say the mechanism on these tend to probably get worn out pretty easily if that's the case, because this actually is caught in there pretty good when I pulled it out. I've actually looked down inside this thing. I really can't figure out why it will not launch. But the cruise missile itself is a gigantic, it's pretty hefty, and it's solid plastic. It's not rubber or anything, so it's pretty cool. It's got a lot of detail and just paint tampo all over it, which is kind of neat. I mean, if you do want to store these, I mean, I would store them so they wouldn't get, you know, caught. But see, maybe I can just kind of pull this back a little bit and see if I can get the fire. Yeah, not really. Let's try it again. Okay, there we go. There, we fired the missile because, you know, I pushed it into there and the spring actually shot it. I think it's just a gripping mechanism that tends to catch this too easily and doesn't want to release. I don't know how that actually works on the inside. Like I said, I have never disassembled one of these to be able to figure that out. But it's like I said, I mean, it only goes down so far, so not much you can do there. This part here will not really stay up very well without the missile on the end, mainly because it's just sitting on an axle. I can probably see somebody out there taking some like fingernail polish or floor wax to tighten that a little bit so that way it would work pretty cool. But this Brimstone missile launcher is actually a really cool addition to the Megaforce line because it really does kind of build up your army, and it makes your army look a lot larger, especially when you have this thing here parked next to a couple tanks along with, you know, maybe a few anti-aircraft tanks just kind of chilling over here as well with it. It really does kind of beef it out a little bit because it shows that this thing's pretty large. And then if you decide to have a Scorpion tank back behind it, you could, but, you know, it gives you a bit of a size comparison. This thing is not large, but not exactly small. It's a pretty good sized little missile launcher. When you do purchase these, though, they normally come with an anti-aircraft tank and the missile itself. So if you are trying to find it, that's pretty much going to be your lot right there. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Megaforce Rocks vehicles. Starting out with the Scorpion. This thing is the weirdest tank thing I've ever seen. I think this is probably one of the most unique tank designs I've ever seen that has ever come out in really any toy line. I don't even remember G.I. Joe having anything as crazy as this thing. But this vehicle is basically a large tank transport. It's got a very large cannon here on top that can do 360 degrees, which is really cool. It's even got a couple cannons here on the front that can maneuver up and down. You can actually shoot all the way down a canyon if you actually had this thing parked on the edge of it. It's really cool how those two cannons stick out. And the funny thing is, one cannon is actually longer than the other. That is really weird. I don't know why it does that, but it does. It's got these two smaller ramp portion here on the back, so that way you can actually take smaller Megaforce vehicles and park them here on the back. It does have a little bitty notch here that sticks up, so it can actually successfully hold these, so if you're rolling this around you don't have to worry about the little tanks falling off, which is really cool. I do like the idea that it's able to carry those guys on the back. Detail, this thing is full of detail. It's completely loaded down with detail. It's just so many different little pistons and areas where, you know, heat could extract, like radiators and such. It's got a lot of cool diamond plating going on here, not to mention stickers galore. This thing is loaded down with stickers. One of these happens to be rolling up on me a little bit here, but it's got the little rocks emblems right there on the side. Not to mention some more cautionary stuff. The It's like a slash number 5 here on the back. A lot of molded detail in the treads. Not to mention the entire geared mechanism thing here on the side, which look like little treads. Well, we'll get into that in a few minutes. A lot of engine bay detail going on here for the top portion here. Not to mention the entire cockpit area here has actually got a lot of little yellow windows here picked out. Not to mention the ones picked out here in this centerpiece. Now this actually does have ability if you really wanted to. You can also park a little Megaforce vehicle kind of up here a little bit. It's a little more successful for the little tanks, not the large. I guess you want to call these kind of a anti-aircraft tank type of thing. You can shoot over cliffs and stuff. It's kind of cool. It's really neat. I do like this design. Got a lot of molded detail here, even on the front of it. Now the gimmick this thing has, it's actually got two really interesting gimmicks. The first gimmick it's got is you push down on this top part here and it fires off a vehicle. This little secondary vehicle looks like a little caterpillar kind of thing. It's actually got several little guns molded here onto the top. Not to mention this camo, this little tiger stripe desert camo look. And then several little bitty parts here sticking up, which are supposed to be a Macross like missile type of thing. This here would actually fire off missiles all over the place. This pretty much what this is a ground support vehicle. Tons of detail in the entire front of it, not to mention the little turbines. Even has a couple more guns here on the back. A lot of detail underneath it, considering this is supposed to slide into the front of the Scorpion, just like so. And when you push it in, it will lock. And you saw how fast that thing fired out. It's got some force behind it. So I do like the idea that this works so well. Even after all these years, this thing still fires really, really well. The secondary gimmick this guy's got is you can hold it here and lift the entire vehicle up and push it down like this, and you got pretty much a secondary mode. The secondary mode is supposed to be more or less for a barrage if you're going to try to fire more off into the air over something. It also allows them to have kind of like a base if they wanted to be able to park tanks just all over it. It allows the ramp on the back actually to be further accessed in an easier way when you just put your little tanks on the back. And it's just neat. I love this idea. This is really, really cool. It gives you kind of like an alternate base for these guys. So you can just have this thing just kind of chilling over there and have a bunch of barricades and such around it. And then you got all these other vehicles just driving around it, just protecting it. And this here being used as central base. You can put this larger support vehicle can actually kind of park right there, which makes sense. And actually kind of weighs it down a little bit too and kind of keeps things in place. These really won't do a lot of moving up and down when it's in this mode. Just pretty much that's pretty much your range right there. It doesn't really go anywhere else. But it is cool that this thing folds out like this. I like these toys that have alternate modes and just really makes it fun and interesting to play with. You can, if you want to, raise it up just partially part way at this height, and then be able to actually move these a little further up and down. But that's just something, that's not really in the instructions, especially when you purchase this. It primarily wants you to push this thing all the way down like this to be able to angle it up. As for anything to look out for, these right here happen to be two little bars that go into the body of the Scorpion. The main thing to look out for is these right here can sometimes get snapped off, and if they do, the entire gimmick will not work. It will still fire out the little vehicle, but it will not allow you to be able to do the raising gimmick without it completely separating from the bottom. Reason I'm saying this is because I happen to have two of these, and one of mine is broken. And where it broke was the two little bars right here that feed inside. It was primarily the attachment points. Now, when it comes to disassembly, I don't see any places on this that you can actually disassemble to fix that problem. I would assume this is possibly glued together, because there was a lot of toys back then that actually did just get glued together instead of just pegged. But I'm not absolutely sure. I haven't tried to pull one apart, so I wouldn't know that for a fact. But my overall thoughts is this thing is awesome. It's very cool. They're not really that difficult to find. They're quite frequently seen on eBay, especially even with this little support rocket vehicle, because this is primarily your lot when you get it, is these two. If you do happen to get the box, congratulations, you got a box to put these guys in. But that's pretty much it. You're not really going to get anything else with this set other than just these two together. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some Kenner Megaforce Rocks style, starting out with this great gigantic Strato Fortress. This Strato Fortress is huge. It is every bit as large as Backlash. If you guys don't know about Backlash, you can go back in my archives and actually have done a review of that particular gigantic air superiority vehicle. Strato Fortress is a very baby blue color. It's got a lighter baby blue, which is kind of crazy that they actually chose these colors, but if you think about it, if you actually wanted to hide something in the stratosphere and it is very, very stealthy in design, this is a perfect way of doing it, because you can't even see it in the air because it's literally blends in. This thing is loaded with detail and it's just awesome. I am really, really glad to have one that actually has a lot of stickers. Unfortunately my Backlash didn't have many, but Strato Fortress here, let's go ahead and start here at the nose. The nose actually has some really, really cool cockpit detail all the way throughout this thing. And if you guys don't know anything about Megaforce, these things supposed to be like humongous. This thing right here literally would be the size of an airport that's flying in the air. So to get you a little bit of idea how the scale works here with a cockpit, it does have a turret here up top. Very teeny tiny turret is that at that. It's a little triple gun. And on the bottom there is no turret or anything under here. I will get to that soon because there's a bunch of detail underneath this thing. Going along here, you got a lot of panel detail. I am missing a sticker here, but it does have the 816 here on the other side. It's got just a lot of number detail throughout the whole thing. I'm getting here to this portion here, which is a secondary cockpit. Why? Because this right here would separate to be able to fly by itself. I'm going to go ahead and do that and give you guys a bit of a disclaimer. When you guys do find these guys, you need to be very careful with this. This particular part right here plugs in there fairly tight, but not way too tight. If you happen to get one of these brand new, you're not going to have as much of an issue, but as time can go by, these little prongs here will snap off, and if it does, there's really no way to attach this unless you glue it on or try to replace this part. I'm not absolutely sure if maybe a Lego peg or something like that would be quite this thick. This is actually a little bigger than that, so it'd be kind of hard to replace it if you did happen to have one that's broken. Just a little bit of a thing here to look out for, especially if you're looking for one of these in the aftermarket. But looking at this nose drone portion here, it's got a lot of detail. on the underside of it. It does have its 1989 stamping right there. Just shows that, you know, this right here possibly would have had some kind of bomb bay, maybe some kind of nose gear, but this doesn't have any kind of landing gear whatsoever to it. Setting that portion there aside, look at the main enchilada portion, which is this whole back section. It does have some molded in guns right here in the front, which is kind of cool. And it's got a lot of sticker detail, few window tampos going all the way across here on the top. This section here is actually reserved for the placement of a jet fighter. The proper way to install the fighters is you want to slide it in. You never want to push down, because you push down you will possibly break it. And what I like about this is the jet fighter's actual front landing gear will fit in between this right here, so it kind of gives it a little bit of a guidance. This is a cool little bit of detail they did not actually have to put in. That's something I really like about this toy line. Just small things like that. A lot of sticker detail here showing, you know, there's possibly cautionary things here. Maybe these pop up to help refuel a plane when it's here or something. Moving here onto the wings. The wings themselves, they do maneuver and move out. I'll get into that gimmick here in a little bit. But it does happen to have more of the little turrets right here that move around on its wings, along with a lot of panel lining going on in here with the big rock symbol right there. Other side should have an O2 and also another little turret. Taking a look at the vending area. The vending area is pretty cool. I love this because this is like, you know, maybe this is how they help cool the entire gigantic system this thing would have in order to stay in the air for so long. And it also cools the inner bay on the inside of this thing. It does happen to have two larger cannons here that are on the back that do move back and forth. That are kind of cool. I do like the idea that they have turrets that move. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I see these things, I get that whole Raiden vibe from way back when we used to play that arcade game, Raiden. I loved that game, that whole air fighter thing, and these kind of things just kind of, I don't know, it embraces that era, which is really cool. It does have twin wings here on the back on both sides, which is kind of cool. Not to mention some really cool thrusters here on the back. The engines really remind me of an SR-71, especially the way the pods are actually designed. I wouldn't be surprised if this whole section here was literally like kind of robbed from an SR-71. They just cloned it here to put, you know, a secondary set of thrusters. A lot of ribbed detail on this wing here, and it's pretty cool. I do like all the detail. Taking a look at the underside of this thing. The underside of this thing has got a lot going on. As you guys can probably already notice, they do have a little bit of damage here. One of my little thin pieces here that sticks down actually is snapped off. But these I will get into here in a few minutes. It does have molded detail for landing gear right here. And not to mention some missiles molded in here, which are kind of cool. And then you got sticker detail here, which I happen to have a sticker here that's trying to come off. It's kind of hard to put these translucent stickers back down without actually getting like an actual type of glue to glue it back down. Some of these try to come up. I'm going to try to fix that at a later time. Has some nice little danger signs here on the very back. Not to mention a couple more little pieces of detail. It does happen to have places here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 missiles. These missiles will actually plug onto these, very G.I. Joe style. It does happen to have a couple intakes here for some alternative thrusters that are underneath, which are really cool. And not to mention really awesome detail here for more molded in landing gear. The underside of the wings has a rock symbol, a lot of molded detail underneath. Not to mention the O2 on this side with the Kenner Parker Toys stamping right here. This thing is just loaded down even with detail on the bottom, which is crazy. I love the idea that they didn't skim out on anything with detail with these. These things are just phenomenal. It does have a alternative. This right here would be more of a control tower bay here at the top, along with a couple molded in cannons here on the back. Now, getting into the gimmick pretty much moved this thing here out, and the whole thing extends. Reason being is this is for an aircraft to land in, or even take off. This is an alternative kind of like repair bay, or maybe this thing needs to go into, you know, supersonic mode or something like that in order to tuck the bay away. It closes its wings and it pulls the bay inside. I love this geared gimmick. This is just awesome. And when you do this, you can reveal a lot more detail underneath the wings. And the wings look pretty cool when it's completely extended. I do like this thing a lot. This thing is really awesome, especially when it has the wings extended out like that. This kind of reminds me of a little bit of the B-1 bomber look, because of the way the wings actually extend out as far as they do. The B-1 bomber actually has wings that extend out really far and then retract almost completely against the body like this one does. There's also the Aardvark as well that does that. It's really awesome engineering. Let's get into this whole missile thing. As for the missiles for this thing, they are really cool little missiles. It comes with a pretty good payload, and the payload actually comes with two different types. Well, it's three sets of two. You got these that are more or less like a cruise missile. It's got a little blunt end here on the end, and it does have that real dog bone thing going on. This dog bone thing is very apparent for a lot of G.I. Joe stuff. So I can see people getting these Kenner missiles mixed up with the G.I. Joe things because they literally are almost identical. Then you got the larger bomb, which is pretty cool. It's got a lot of molded detail, and I like the way they designed these. It's very cool. It's even got a little bit of a thruster kind of thing sticking off here in the rear. And then you got these smaller, I would say this is more of a heat seeker type, with a really sharp tip, because this here would actually literally have like major acceleration because of the size. And that's what I like about these things, is the size of the missiles are all different as well, so you're not stuck with like the same kind of payload on it at all times. Now, something you can do with these missiles is you can install them on the bottom of the aircraft pretty easily. It's not hard to do this, and you can kind of put them anywhere you really want. I like to put the smaller ones back here toward the rear landing gear, mainly because they don't want to like rub into anything. The larger bombs I like to put here, mainly because, you know, I think the larger payload would be in the center of an aircraft anyhow, just for center of gravity, and then your blunt ones would be here on the ends. Obviously I'd be able to put this one here, but I can't because this part here broke off. Not much I can do about that unless I can find an entire new body, or find somebody that has just this bottom portion here I can swap out, which I really don't want to have to get into trying to take these guys apart, because these, as you can tell, there's really no screw holes. I don't know exactly how you would be able to pop this thing apart without damaging it. There's guys out there I know that are pretty good at doing that kind of thing, but I wouldn't want to risk it, especially with the age of these, because these things age pretty well, but I've seen them break pretty easily, especially that part right here dealing with the front jet piece attaching. Now, something else I wanted to talk about is this little teeny tiny plane. These smaller jets I've already done a review on, but this one here would actually come with a black version of this. It's got some yellow and red markings all over it as well. It's actually identical to the leader version of the Jet Force. Obviously it would come with the double cruise missile that would be mounted on the bottom. That is the only thing that I don't have for this, unfortunately. But it's really difficult trying to find just those little planes by themselves, because most people out there are selling their entire Kenner lots at once, and when they do, you might find that plane in there and you might not. You might end up with this plane and like 2 of these that might be in really bad condition, or you never know. I mean, it's such a crapshoot when it comes to trying to acquire some of these at times. But like I said, trying to get a hold of these smaller planes, pretty difficult to do. I mean, they are fully die cast, so it's not like you're really going to find these damaged that often. The only thing I could probably see if anything did get broke, if you did happen to try to get these, maybe the smaller fins are on the bottom, maybe the pin, anything like protruding out, I would say. These plastic missile things here tend to get lost quite often, so that's a real hard part to find. Very difficult to find these. This right here is something that I don't even know if any of you guys can actually probably find any of these online anywhere that won't cost you an arm and a leg, just for a silly little piece that literally is about the size of like a machine gun for an old Star Wars figure. You also have these little fins here on the back that could possibly get damaged, but I mean, for the most part, these are pretty solid little die-cast planes. You're gonna find these rarely ever broken. This guy here, like I said, the big thing that I look out for is that attachment piece for this, because that's where I'm seeing a lot of these broken, other than the missile portion at the bottom. Plasticon Megaforce review. Today we're going to cover some more crazy goodies of the aerial style. I'm talking the Rock VTOLs. Here's Rock's VTOLs, and these things are very deserty, camouflaged looking. One of these smaller scout vehicles here has got some decent molding going on here. You got some really cool riveting going on throughout the entire body. Not to mention just the shape of this thing. It's very weird. It's got like these inverted wings going on here on the back. And it's got this nice gray, kind of a bluish gray camo going on, along with this nice teal. Like not a teal, but a tan. Like tannish. Tan. Yeah, tan. Teal. Get out of here. It's also got these little wings here that move back and forth. It's got little teeny tiny guns molded into them. It's just so cool that they're able to mold something that small. I mean, this stuff is like the head of a pin, literally. Very neat. I do like the cautionary straps they got going on here on the front fins. It does have 2 sets of landing gear, not to mention the little peg here that you would normally use. And it's got this thing here on the back which really reminds me of something that I've seen before on aircraft carriers, the little hook thing. So it's really neat that they actually molded something like that in it. Now he is completely die cast. The only thing that is not die cast are these little bitty plastic wings. And I haven't really seen many on the aftermarket missing these wings, but then again, I wasn't ever really rough with my toys, and some kids weren't either. So these guys are really cool. There's a lot of heft to these things. And not to mention just the crazy amount of detail this thing has. I mean, look at the panel lines. It's just nuts. Anyhow, let's move on to the big guy. Here is the Command VTOL, which is obviously pretty much identical to the other one, except for it's just got larger wings. They do move as well, and they got like this crazy little thing here on the back that kind of helps fill it out even more. The body itself is actually identical. Just these wings here really make it look different. And the last time I saw some VTOL stuff like this was in the movie Avatar. But then again, a lot of you guys probably go back and think of maybe the movie Aliens. And that's where I normally remember seeing VTOLs from. And what people want to know what VTOL is. VTOL is a vertical takeoff and landing. That is what it stands for. And it's very cool. I do like these a lot. It's very Harrier-esque vehicles. And speaking of which, they actually come with a little landing pad that they would land on. It actually has little gun emplacements as well. And it's very cool that this is a neat little set. And if you do purchase these guys, they do come as a set just like this. It comes normally in a blister pack with a cardboard backing. You cannot really remove them without destroying the blister pack itself if you do try to find these guys brand new package. But the little landing pad itself has got 3 sets of cannons, one on each side. And this really looks like the platform where they would actually come up on maybe like an elevator or something to get in. It does have 3 little pegs here to be able to make it stand up. Which I remember when I was a kid, I would actually take these and kind of bury them down inside the dirt a little bit, and they would stay there and they wouldn't move, and you'd be able to just take off and land just fine and not worry about it moving around at all. That's what was really, really cool about a lot of the smaller vehicle sets. They always came with some type of little battle platform or some way to interact your vehicles with that if you didn't have any of the other vehicles to interact these with. They all come with the little pins on the bottom so that way you can successfully put them on like a vehicle like Trident or the Strato Fortress that comes with these guys. That's Rock's large vehicle. Any of those it would actually work with. So anyhow, another Plasticon Megaforce review. Today we're going to cover the Virok tactical bomber fighters. Yes, they're aerial reconnaissance destroyers of, I don't know, what are you going to call it? They're jets. These guys are pretty cool. I do like these guys are really sticking with more of a desert camo. They really do match the VTOLs, which I'll bring one in over here real quick just to show you that a VTOL really does match up with these guys very well. It's pretty cool. You know, let's take a look at one of their smaller scout vehicles here. The non-command class. And it's got a really, really interesting design. All these panel lines are just insane. This is so much detail pressed into this mold. I just can't get over how many panel lines this jet has. This thing is crazy. The only thing I kind of wish they would have done was made these wings actually really retractable. But I can understand why they didn't, because these things are solid die cast. It would have been very difficult to do something like that, especially with how thin these wings are. I mean, look how thin they are. They're almost, you know, like a butter knife. It's about how sharp they are. I mean, a little less than that. But they're not really that sharp to the point that you can actually hurt yourself, but they're really cool. Very nicely molded all the way, even on the bottom. Speaking of the bottom, there's this little bomb here that comes off. It's a little bitty plastic part that came with these guys. They actually did have ability to drop little bombs if you wanted to, which is a really cool feature, especially on a jet this size. The only thing I ever saw was like Micro Machines. The Micro Machines didn't even have anything that came off like that, so it does have a little bit of paint wear going on here for the cockpit. The cockpit normally is blue windows, but you know, this happens over time, especially when these things are played with so much. It does have 2 little jet engines here on the back, and that's about all it really has, other than maybe this little bit of a gun here underneath the nose. But it's very cool, and it's so small. It's like teeny tiny, but I do like this a lot. Anyhow, let's look at the commander of the group. Taking a look at the commander of the group, there is a stark difference here with the paint job. They really did change it up with the black. They added black to the wings on the very front and on the tail. Not to mention this kind of chevron thing going on here on the backbone. Just enough detail in order to change it up just a little bit. Now the missile is slightly different on this one here compared to the other version. This actually has almost like a cruise missile type of thing going on here where it looked like it could possibly split in half. It doesn't actually do it because it's so small. But look at the molded detail just in the missile itself. It's pretty crazy. It does have these little pins here so that way you can actually put these on any type of vehicle that actually has this receptacle, and it just works. I do like this a lot. The nose cone's actually supposed to have a little bit more black here on the front, but you know, it's worn off over time. But it's very cool. Now another cool thing this entire set came with is this little hanger. And this hanger is actually specially designed for these to dock into, because it allows the tail fins to just stick up just ever so slightly out of the back. It's really cool that they actually molded something different. It would have been neat to see a lot of these, like maybe like an accessory pack years ago that they could have sold that gave you like a ton of these things. These things would have been amazing to have these, like enough more to do like a whole battlefield full of them. But they do have a little turret here on the top, as well as just molded detail throughout the entire thing. Now these right here could have been like fuel canisters if you think of it that way. And you know, it just really reminds me of almost like one of those kind of desert hangars, or maybe even like something that they have hidden in the woods or something for them to be able to park the jets under and kind of keep them out of harm's way so that way nothing would happen to them, so that way if when, you know, Tyrex shows up with their gigantic war machines, that they wouldn't lose their fighters to this crazy set of, I don't know, renegades or whatever you want to call them, coming after these guys. These guys here are supposed to be the good guys, and they are kind of underdogged in this line, but I do like these. These are very cool. Now when it comes to trying to find these in the aftermarket, the hardest thing in the world to find are those bombs. These bombs are very difficult to find, and I really recommend that when you do go out there to look for them, try to find them with the little bombs. These things here are pretty easy to find on eBay. I tend to find the little hanger things pretty easily, but when it comes to trying to find the jets, the bombs are the hardest thing in the world to find. Normally you won't hardly ever find these where they are completely broken. They're rarely ever broken, but you will find them where they are very discolored and beat up like this, and this does happen to these over time. Welcome to one of those Plasticon Megaforce reviews. Yeah, you know, one of those things. Yeah, I got more going. Anyway, this is Rox. Rox has got a gigantic, awesome vehicle here called the Trident, and this Trident is also a tanker vehicle. I absolutely love semi-trucks, and this thing is just like something out of Mad Max. I have always loved the Trident. The Trident is probably my favorite Rox vehicle just because of what it's capable of doing. It's got this nice VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing jet platform. You can also land helicopters on it if you wanted to, but it attaches there onto this little arm. And this gigantic armature here, it's got quite a bit of detail on it. All this detail here, it's got even like a refueling hoses, and this is not a sticker, this is actually tampoed here on here, along with this gigantic, like crazy tanker. The tanker portion here is removable. That's what's crazy about this guy. He's actually got a removable tank. You just lift this up, and this little pin here will actually plug into the hole on top. And you'll take this little tank here off. And the tank has got this nice little wedge thing here, which works for most of the plug-in things. I mean, you can even plug it in up here if you really wanted to. And it can be like lifting its tank up high or something like that if they're going to transport it onto some other kind of vehicle. But anyhow, it's got this nice little tank turret back here on the very back, and even one here on the front that moves around. It does have capability for you to be able to carry another vehicle here if you felt like. along with one up top. I'm just got a helicopter here, one of Tyrex's helicopters. And you know, this is what it's primarily for. It's primarily for transport and a tanker refuel. This thing has really got some amazing detail though. The detail this thing has got is just phenomenal. Like, the way they did this window is just really cool. And I do like the idea that, you know, they even put a little teeny tiny turret here on the side. This stuff isn't really even necessary, but they did it. And it's got nice little rolling wheels here, which this thing does happen to roll. Which it's another one of those oddball ones that actually does roll. There's not many of them in the entire line that does this, but this is another one that does. It does have a lot of molded detail underneath. You can tell, you know, drivetrain and all this stuff. And just these tracks here on the back are just well detailed. Look, I mean, you can even see the rivets, which is cool. I love seeing rivets on toys. You don't see enough of that nowadays. The other thing I really do like is the fact that they put this thing here on the back and it looks like a fox or some kind of evil badger or something here on the back. I'm not really sure what that thing's supposed to be, but it's really cool. And I do like the little checkerboarding they got going on here, along with the cautionary stripes here and there all over it, and a nice rescue arrow, which this, yeah, really reminds me of almost like a G.I. Joe vehicle. And this thing's just got some amazing detail. That's just one thing I loved about this thing. It's just the detail alone. I mean, look at the armature. How much detail is molded into that? That's just amazing. It's even got rivets. Did I mention rivets? Yeah. Very, very, very cool vehicle. And not to mention the fuel tank itself. It's just got detail all over it. Even diamond plating going up and down here, as if this is a catwalk that goes across the entire tank itself. And this thing is actually a rubber, kind of a rubbery hard plastic. And it's really cool that, you know, they actually put some thought into designing such vehicles like these, because this stuff is just neat. I've always loved the way Megaforce vehicles were. And this guy was by far one of my favorite, just because I happen to like semi-trucks and stuff. I like this thing. This thing is cool. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Megaforce. Yes, Triax is still at it because Triax has tons of vehicles. Let's move on to this guy that is also known as Trax, which is a really weird name, but it makes sense considering this thing is a gigantic transport. This thing's got some really, really cool detail going on here. It's got so many guns on the front portion of him. Not to mention two of these gigantic guns here that would possibly bump into each other, especially if they wanted to fire. But I mean, they can crossfire. Get it? Crossfire? You guys remember crossfire? Anyway. It's got these nice blue windows here, which shows where the actual command center is. Not to mention this top turret here that does a nice little 360. Some great molded detail, and just this thing is pretty heavy. It's actually got a lot of weight to it. A lot of die cast in this guy. Lots of weird panel detail going on back here in the very back. Not to mention these nice big gaping hole here in the back, and you're gonna find out what that's for here in a couple of seconds here. But just so much detail. They even detailed the wheels themselves when they roll. So, and they have these little chunks took out of them, which is kind of weird, but very cool. Oh, by the way, something I did fail to mention, every one of these large vehicles has so much detail on the bottom. You guys can probably name so many toys that's come out in the recent years that have no detail on the bottom. What happened? Anyway, let's move on to the little gimmick this guy does. And you just push on this gigantic turret here on the back, and it slides out this whole assembly. Now you'd have to actually bend this down, which it will bend down successfully. You'll get a little bit of stress mark here, but that's kind of unavoidable considering this is supposed to be the ramp for all the little vehicles to just drive right out of. And this thing can carry 2 vehicles on the inside. And not to mention, look at all the crazy detail in that bay. I can see this thing as being like a mobile repair vehicle that can actually kind of rescue and pull these guys in, so that way they can fix the vehicle here and let them back out. And it's got this really, really cool design here, which I always thought about this as being like maybe like a towing mechanism for pulling the vehicles up into this thing. I always thought it was weird that they came up with the name, though, tar tracks for this thing. But it would make sense because this thing probably could drive through tar just fine, especially with the wheels not having a straight, flat look and actually having a bit of gapness going on. And he does roll very well. That's what's really cool about it. Not many of the Megaforce vehicles roll, but this one here happens to do it. Anyhow. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover more Megaforce. Yes, Megaforce. There's plenty of this, so get used to it. Anyhow. Moving on, we have triaxes. What we tend to call crossbolt. This thing looks like a gigantic crab. It's really cool. I love these teeth going on here in the front of this thing. This thing is a gigantic armored. It's very difficult to really describe other than just, it looks like a big crab or beetle or something to me. It's really cool how the vehicle cockpit portion's all like tucked way up under here, underneath this gigantic double blaster cannon, not to mention a couple here that are big, I don't know, semi-automatic laser cannons from, I don't know, laser cannons of doom. I'm just going to go with that because they're freaking huge. This thing is really cool. It's got a lot of sticker detail, which is something that Megaforce did, and you had to apply the stickers back then. They did not come pre-applied. I missed that in toys. I had to say that, sorry. But the detail on top of this thing is just insane. Just all this crazy plating going on here, and I mean, you can use your imagination to say whatever is. These things really remind me of some kind of tank thing that was in like those old Raiden games that everybody used to play in the arcades. Yeah, that's what this thing reminds me of. But this isn't all this thing does, because it's just, you know, it looks kind of, okay, cool. It's a big thing. What's it do? It does something, because it's got a little button here on the back. And when you press this button, it springs to life. Oh my god! Okay. It's a gigantic helipad. This thing has got an insane amount of stickers on top of it, not to mention where the helicopter actually goes. It allows the whole cockpit of the vehicle here to be more or less exposed, but it still has the double barrel laser gun, but it raises it up, which is kind of cool because, you know, they can fire at different levels now. This thing is spring loaded, and you can leave it open like this if you wanted to and do that, but the whole surprise is the whole thing just cracks open like a gigantic egg. It's really cool how they angled all this too. They could have easily just made like one slit and then just have it just open all boring, but no, they didn't do that. They made it so that way you actually had to puzzle it back together when you put it back together to close it up. That's really, really cool. It's got this crazy amount of stickers on top though. The stickers on top are really, really cool. And I like the idea, you see the helicopter doesn't fall off. Why? Because it's attached by that little peg thing. Now, this is a little bit of a recommendation to anybody that's out there planning on getting these. These can break very easily. So if you do get the helicopter, and you're going to put the helicopter on, you don't want to push it down into the peg. You actually want to slot it in, because when you slot it in, it holds it just fine. The only reason why this thing is shaped like this, so, you know, say Trax wants to be sneaky and one time not put a helicopter in here, but put one of the little missile launcher guys, well, they can successfully put a missile launcher guy on there. And then close this whole thing here up. And then everybody's gonna think, oh my god, they're coming at us with helicopters, what are we ever gonna do? And then they do this, and all of a sudden you got missile launchers. And this thing, if you guys saw my review of these guys earlier, these little missiles don't like to stay, but anyhow. It's really, really cool how this just kind of sits on there. And the weight of these things works very, very well. It kind of helps balance this thing as it's bouncing up and down. I do like the detail though. This detail is insane. These are little gun placements here, and it would have been cool to see these actually raise up and down or go around or something. But I understand why they didn't do it, because it just would have been a little too much to try to push into this plastic, especially with the mechanism being right where it's located, where these little guns are. It would have really hampered what this thing has capability of doing. Anyhow, let's take a look at this little helicopter it came with. This little helicopter reminds me of, I don't know, you guys remember Rambo with the big gigantic helicopter that came after him with the double cockpit thing with all the armament? It's exactly what this thing reminds me of. And it's really cool. The only thing with these guys, and I do highly recommend this if you do look for these, try to find them with the propellers, because the propellers on these things tend to get broke fairly easy. They're very delicate, especially throughout the years. A lot of kids tend to chew on them, or they got thrown in the bottom of the toy box and they got bent or broken. I do have a couple helicopters that are suffering from that, but they are really, really cool. The detail in this thing is pretty amazing. I do like the stripe detail they actually did. Instead of just putting just a splatter of black paint on top and a splatter of green underneath, they went with this real crazy wave going on here, which kind of breaks it up. And if you notice, it's actually got molded in guns here on the side, along with this great amount of hydraulic detail here on the little landing gear. And not to mention this teeny tiny cannon here right on the very end. This whole thing here, this big part, is all die cast. So you more than likely will find this thing just fine, but the blades themselves, no, these things are plastic. They will get broke over time. This one happens to be in excellent condition, because this is the helicopter that would come along with the gigantic Crab Monster crossbolt vehicle. I'll give you guys a bit of a scale comparison here, along with the tank for the helicopter. It's very small, but it kind of fits in with the whole scale thing here. I know I haven't gotten around to these guys yet, but kind of gives you a bit of a scale comparison compared to one of the tanks. They are really, really tiny, but they kind of still fit in just fine. It's not like there's a big scale problem here, honestly. Considering these things supposed to be massive tanks, these are not like a normal sized tank like everybody sees nowadays. These things are like 3 times the size of that. So, gives you a little bit of an idea of how big they are. Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover some more Megaforce. When I mean Megaforce, I mean Trax. I mean Ram Fist. Yeah, Ram Fist, a gigantic arsenal carrying crazy machine of death. That's what I'm going with, because this thing is just crazy and just this is probably one of the most oddball vehicles you probably would ever imagine. Just give you a bit of a scale comparison. I mean, there is a small little rocket launcher. Normally he would come with a black rocket launching vehicle, and unfortunately I do not have one of those. But he would come with a little vehicle similar to this guy, except for he was all black, and the missiles would be more of a neon green. It's about the only difference between the two vehicles, considering, you know, I'm holding one here. That's what the other one will look like. Anyhow, let's look at the big guy here. And he is a massive carrier. If you guys imagine a gigantic aircraft carrier or vehicle transport, this is pretty much it. This thing is huge. Just gotta say that word, huge, because there's no other word out there that describes this thing. It's really cool. It does have this big, gigantic, protruding thing here that a lot of people are like, well, that looks like a gigantic button, because that's what it is. And what this thing would do is if you had like some enemy coming over here, like this little rocks tank, and he was going to get in the way, all you have to do is this. And just swat him out of your way, because you know, that's what these are. These are gigantic swatting arms, and they would rotate all the way around and around and around and around as many times as you'd want them to. Now, this does cause the cockpit to swirl around and around and around, which is kind of weird. And honestly, if you probably were trying to pilot this thing, this would probably give you a bit of a headache. But that's why the bridge and all the communications and such is all ran from this tower here in the back. It is not ran from this gigantic arsenal cannon of destruction up front. Unfortunately, I am missing the long gun that usually sticks off the end here. There's supposed to be a long gun that just plugs in and that's it. Really not missing much there with that. But it does have these gigantic arms. As my girlfriend likes to describe this looks like a cheerleader or, I don't know, some flag man trying to flag airplanes in. Well, I guess he could be doing that. I mean, there is a helipad on the back, so why not? Anyhow, let's move on to this crazy color of camo. I mean, I gotta mention this on the camo. This camo is neon green. I mean, this is like I said, 1989, guys. This is like on the brink of neon goodness and G2 craziness. That's what this is. It's just, this neon green is just in your face. It does have ability to transport quite a few vehicles on the very back. As you guys can see, it does have a very successful landing pad here for a helicopter, and you can actually spin this and it will not get in the way and hit any of the guns or anything on it. And it also has ability to launch vehicles out of the rear, primarily by just pushing on the tank here. It will let it completely out, and it will slide out. There is no spring-loaded mechanism here. That is literally the weight of this tank launching it out. But that gives you a little bit of an idea how awesome these things really are. I just love the idea that the weight of the tank just allows it just to drop out and just fly out. It does have ability to be able to carry at least, successfully I would say at least, 4 tanks and a small anti-aircraft and troop tank. The reason I'm saying this is because this area here is a little more narrow than this area here. So your troop tanks would have to sit here. If you have a couple of them, I bet you can probably fit 2 there, but I wouldn't bank on it. It honestly really has only room for 1. Let's get all these vehicles off of here real quick, so that way I can show you all the other crazy detail this thing has. And it's got these large cannons here that are little turrets that move back and forth. It's got 3 of these. This in here actually has more range because it literally covers the entire rear end. And it can face forward, but why would you want to be shooting that way, because you're going to hit the bridge. But it does have the ability to rotate quite a few of these. Now, it is unfortunately missing the radar dish. There's supposed to be a radar dish up there that spins around, just like this stuff. But, you know, I'll end up getting one of those. You guys more than likely want to see more pictures on Facebook and such of that, because, you know. But anyway, getting some crazy detail here. These are double barrel cannons all the way around this entire thing, which tells you this is where your troops would be. Your troops would actually be manning these on the sides And this thing, not to mention just how crazy this machine is, the detail alone in this thing is awesome. It does have ability to rotate the cannons here on the front, and this one here will only do about a 180. They will kind of bump into each other a little bit, but I mean, there's not much you can do about that. But one thing I do want to say is I did have one of these when I was a kid and absolutely loved this toy, and this toy was so cool, and it got lost through time, and that's why I said, I remember this guy came with a black one with the green that actually matched this green with the missiles. It was crazy, and I loved it. And it probably got lost in the dirt somewhere because I used to play in the sandboxes with these things all the time when I was a kid. Remember the good old days? Yeah. So many kids out there probably need to do some of that. But anyway, that's a topic for a different day. Anyhow, this has been Plasticon, and this has been yet another Megaforce review. I'll end up coming at you with some more because I have plenty more of these guys. Plenty. Just tons of these guys. Just laying around in a box somewhere. I'll dig more out. I'll see you around. Bye.